Hi, What the Flick? Francis, Tim, Hasan. We're here talking about Narcos, Season 2, Episodes 1 through 4. Free at Last, Cambalache, forgive my pronunciation, Our Man in Madrid, and The Good, The Bad, and The Dead. So,
the bad,
just
and
as
the dead.
a refresher, if you're already all the way through the season, these episodes end with Carrillo getting ambushed in the streets of Medellin, and Peña being brought to the Cali cartel, where shit starts to really go down, I assume.
Yeah.
Are we going to go back to season 1 and then recap by historical?
You want to talk about season 1 a little bit?
I mean,
not
we'll be
season
here
1,
all
sorry,
night.
episode 1.
Episode 1,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
In episode 1, we see that Pablo has just escaped La Catedral.
Yes.
La Catedral.
Yeah, Catedral. And the DEA is investigating that. The government's very worried. We meet Limon and Maritza. Limon is Pablo's new driver.
Limon.
He's got a clean
Yeah.
record. And Murphy loses his wife and gets arrested for punching a dude in
Beating
the
some
bathroom.
Wall Street scumbag in the toilet.
I will say this. One thing that really upset me with season 2, because I was super stoked about it, I thought it was the most anticlimactic way that Pablo could have escaped La Catedral after when he just walks up to that lineup of soldiers and they've basically surrounded the facility, and he just kind of walks by them and with his 3 other guys with shotguns, and it felt so unrealistic to me. I know that they were trying to showcase that Pablo is such a strong and intimidating figure, especially within his community, that these people were intimidated by him, even when he was at his weakest point. Are you raising your hand?
I raised my hand because I want to, not to make a point, is that's the exact thing that I thought after episode 1, so I Googled it. And I Googled what happened. That is exactly how he left. The officer, there is an official officer who granted all the leeway for him to walk by, said that in the split second, like if you read this guy's portrayal of it, it's fascinating. He said that you never think in your life you're going to see Pablo Escobar, right? And then when you see him, he is nothing like you imagine this guy is supposed to look like. Even when he's seen him on TV, like even just face to face, he didn't know. And he said in that moment, he had to make a decision whether he would be ashamed, everyone would look to him as a person that let him go, or whether he valued anyone that he ever knew was close to him. Like in that moment. And he said it wasn't even a decision. He just stepped aside and let him walk through.
Even when you have all the cards in the situation, Pablo Escobar is still so scary.
Yes.
That you throw
and that's why I thought that was so fascinating.
I
they embellish though, like obviously it's supposed to be exaggerated, which is why like some parts of it are obviously fictionalized. So I know exactly what you're saying. I looked into it as well, and I thought like, God damn it, why didn't they make that moment a little bit more dramatic? I don't think they showed Pablo's like how scary Pablo is at that moment. It was more like a flat-footed fat man walking into a lineup of soldiers.
With a shitty sweater.
The sweater is like
sailing.
But do you not think that makes this character so fascinating to me is that he is not for one bit intimidating until he gets angry, and then you start to feel that sense of power. But it's just the fact that he was worshipped as a god at times from a lot of people, and he was so soft-spoken and very polite and very.
We don't see him angry.
It was I think you do it a couple of times.
You do.
All you
when
do
he's talking about Carrillo. When he's fucking scared of Carrillo.
Judy Moncada.
Whenever he's got his phone.
The knife up,
But what you were saying about the realism and how disappointing it was that he just walked by those, I think the show does a really good job of playing with that portrayal, because you'll see things that are larger than life and fictionalized, and then they'll do a really great job of then showing you the footage of actual Pablo Escobar actually doing that stuff.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh shit, this really happened.
Yeah.
I can't believe that fucking happened. And here's video of it.
Well, even Murphy's explanation of realism or magical realism, like it strikes so true with like not only Colombian folklore but actual real events in Colombia, because it just seems incredible, especially when like there's certain moments where Escobar gets to escape, or that point is like that's like straight out of a
like
movie.
The footage of the plane bombing, that came right after the fictionalized.
Yeah.
It's like, oh shit. Like all those people really died. He actually did that.
And it's hard. You need to be reminded. They do a great job of reminding you at that time, because you grow so. Like Wagner Moura does a phenomenal job. Like I'll never look at. I mean, I know Benicio del Toro once upon a time played a Pablo Escobar character. Some other people have played it in the past, and I'm like, no longer can I imagine anyone else playing it.
Like Vincent Chase.
Vincent Chase.
Medellin,
dude. Okay, so I always thought originally that was going to ruin this entire season for me. I mean, this entire
the word
show.
Medellin.
for me. The Medellin, because Vincent Chase in a fat suit, like I couldn't get that image out of my head. And I think they did a fantastic job of eliminating any sort of like preceding Pablo Escobar related things for me when I watched it, because it was such a powerful show.
Yeah.
One other thing I wanted to say in regards to like Murphy's own internal struggle, I think they do a really good job in this season specifically exploring that, where they showcase both Javier, not as much, but Murphy's own problems at home because of because of how stressful his job is, and they're under constant scrutiny. They're fighting with the Colombian government in a way. They're fighting with bureaucracy while also trying to catch Pablo Escobar, and then it takes a toll on his personal relationships. And then, like you said in the end of the first episode, where he just takes it out on these two unsuspecting Wall Street types that are just like, man, it's just coke, man, you know?
And I think
Who does coke in a Colombian airport?
Yeah, it's
those two guys.
Murphy, I think his internal struggles is a crucial part of this, and his narration I think is great as well. Pena,
I know.
I think that the thing about Pena in this is that he's suffering from a very similar problem, I think, with Murphy, but he just wants to do what it takes to get it done. Like he is no longer playing by the rules, and I think he learned that from Carrillo. I don't want to go too far ahead of episode 4, but as we see what happens to Carrillo, is like that's a tipping point for Pena. Like there's no way that you can reason with him when he has seen one of the most severe threats to Pablo Escobar wiped out by the other man's ruthlessness. Like he realizes that you're toying with one of the most evil people in the world that has the backing of a lot of people within his own ground, so that he's always going to be hidden. So you're literally trying to find a needle in a haystack, and that needle at one point can just cause an explosion of needles. So like you need to play. You can't play by the rules.
And what another thing about the juxtaposition between the impact that Pablo Escobar's like actions, his words, the impact that it has, like very real consequences on the entirety of Colombia's safety. Whereas, and then in the end of the episode, in the end of the second episode, you'll see him like dancing and singing in the shower, or when he's talking to his children and playing around, and
slow dancing with his wife while the police are being killed.
While the police are being murdered. And what was it, like 400 police officers a week or something? Like some crazy number?
400 a year, yeah.
400 a year.
It wasn't 400 a week.
I was surprised. I mean, the guy wiped out 223 on a plane.
But yeah, that's more than one a day.
So that's insane. That and you see that it like this man's words are so powerful.
Yeah.
Yet he is so wholly like unaffected by it.
Yeah.
And that's also interesting to see as well.
Yeah, and you'd throw around numbers like 400 police officers a year, and they also throw out the number $60 million a day.
Yeah.
It's like when you have that much money, there's like nothing that can stop you. There's nobody that can't be bought.
Cocaine is just such a hell of a drug.
It's a hell of a drug.
It's a hell of a drug.
I like that Pena as well is always kind of trying to preserve Murphy, like in a way that he doesn't want him to be is exposed.
Corrupted.
That's so weird
else.
because the show was like making me fight my own expectations from the very first episode. I'm at an advantage because I watched them all in a row. But like the very first thing you hear is like, oh, should we give this one to Pena? No, he's an asshole. We'll give it to the new guy.
Yeah.
And so like I have this expectation that Pena is this jaded, like plays by his own rules, like kind of does some shady shit cop, and like this new Murphy guy is the uncorruptible. Yeah. And yet every step of the way, Pena is the more honorable person.
Well, you're thinking about season 1. You'll see what they mean in season 2.
But even these first 4 episodes, I mean, it seems like Murphy has no problem throwing a dude out of a helicopter.
Yeah,
and Pena is like really affected.
No. Absolutely not.
Okay, so
actually, you don't remember the interaction between Pena and Murphy, where Pena is the one who does whatever it takes, and you see that in season 1 as well. Like you'll see at some points, like he's not as affected as Murphy is by torture. He's not affected as like I'm talking about Murphy. Murphy is affected by all this stuff, and you see him very conflicted, but he has to suck it up in a lot of points, and it's because Pena tells him, like, listen, if you want to be a part of the crew, like if you want to roll with,
you have to be all in. Yeah.
If you want him to trust you, if you want Coronel Gavira to trust you, you're gonna have to turn a blind eye to his actions. Whereas you see that Javier is not as conflicted as Murphy
I think he's getting worn down.
No, he does. But
for sure.
No, but he wants to preserve it. I mean, if we're talking about from episodes 1 to 4, you see, arguably, in amidst all of Pablo Escobar's atrocities, one of the hardest things to watch is Colonel Carrillo just shooting a young kid,
child.
right? Shooting a child who is working for Pablo Escobar.
And then giving the other one another bullet for Pablo.
So at that point, that's where Pena is thinking to himself,
like that,
yeah, I mean, that is a very, you have to, again, you need to play him to his strengths. Like, killing people is not going to do the same effect as sending a young kid with a bullet to Pablo Escobar, because you could kill that kid and then he would still be maybe
and it has that effect. It has the intended effect. Pablo squeals like a little baby when he tries to. I mean, it's a very Machiavellian thing that he does when he uses the child to advance his own personal goals by painting this picture that Gaviria is a crazed madman.
Carrillo,
I mean, not Gaviria. Sorry, Carrillo. Not Gaviria. You're right. I keep saying that. And he does a good job with that, is painting him as the enemy. But to me, that spoke to how terrified Pablo was. Yeah. And I think they do a good job of showing a man so powerful. And this is a James Gandolfini in The Sopranos. Like, this is a Tony Soprano type man. He's unflinching. He commands the room, even though he's not the most attractive or the most he has this effortless charisma about him. Yeah. And yet you see him very scared in that moment, because I don't think he's angry. I think he's terrified for his life.
I love Wagner Moura's portrayal, because I think he does so much with so little. Like, when you look at any given scene, Pablo's making the same face pretty much all the time. Yeah, it's very blank, it's very emotionless, but it's so menacing. It's so terrifying all the time. But it's always there. So when you do see that little hint of a forced smile, it's like, oh shit, what is he thinking about? Yeah. Or like when he has that scene where he reacts to Carrillo and Gaviria not negotiating, and he gets so angry, and so it's like, wah!
Yeah. At this point, to kind of, as we go towards the end of episode 4, what we start to see from what I remember is that other, obviously, drug lords are starting to see if there is a sign of weakness, and they immediately are hit back down to earth, showcasing that even if he is weakened with his money, he's not got as many men by his side, I believe, in season 2 as we go forward than what he used to have. He still has the ability. He's a very intelligent man, very ahead of what he ran this system for so long that he knows the steps that they're going to take. They're going to look to try and take over certain areas that he runs. So he's doing the exact same thing. He's already in bed with the brothers. You mentioned the dentist, who Judy Mancada thought was on her side. So then he goes to one of their labs, kills a bunch of her people, and she immediately is reminded that even when you think you have him, even when you think he is squeezed to the point that he is no longer, he will find a way. Like, he knows he's got so many, I would say, different methods to try and get across his message that it's so hard to try and pin him down to one thing. So that's when you're going to start to see the Cali cartel come into it, because they are thriving with the amount of money that they're making. They've always been back and forth with Pablo, who takes over Miami.
And arguably they now have more power and more control, especially once they take over Moncada's assets. Yeah. In that unholy alliance that they create between Cali and Medellin. And I say unholy because I think one thing that you can kind of take out of that deal is that Pablo Escobar is such a serious threat that these two factions that have never gotten along outside of this professional alliance that they've formed, like a contractual one where they separated the New York territories and Miami. Mm-hmm. Judy Moncada is, even though she's from Medellin, willing to give up her assets and, most importantly, her allegiance to Medellin itself, just to end Pablo. That's how scary. Yeah, that's how scary the threat of Pablo Escobar is, that she's willing to give up everything for vengeance. And you see, what's his name, with the beard?
Pacho?
Pacho. Yeah. You see him going like, wow, like Kiko would be proud of your vengeance.
How do you get that? Like 30 people have beards.
I don't know.
That'd be like he said, the one with the mustache. Oh, the one with the mustache.
Tim, I'm obsessed with this. I know it. And I think the final point in that is that the one thing I take from early on in season 2, and it goes through, is that no matter how many resources you want to stamp out from Pablo, he's more dangerous in this season, I think. Simply because season 1, he had everything.
Backed into a
he's
corner.
Backed in a corner. What happens to an animal, Haas?
Yeah.
You back him into a corner.
When an animal is backed into a corner, that's when he's the most vicious. He'll do anything it takes. Like,
I think
they'll rip off their own arms to get out of a trap.
I think the real reason he's more dangerous this season is because Gustavo's dead.
And his family's
It's like the one person keeping him in check.
The one person that kept him in check, ironically, is the reason why he's more devastating. I thought about that too.
Can I just tell you, on the final note, how envious I am that you've got how many episodes left? Like 5 or 6?
Oh.
6, yeah.
I would give a lot. I'd give you my nice Murphy jacket.
Agent Murphy.
Agent Murphy jacket to go back to that.
I think if you do Murphy for Halloween, I'm gonna do Pablo Escobar.
All right, okay, I'll just chase you around the club.
I'm gonna have to, I'm gonna have to shave the beard and just have a mustache.
I'll be Tata.
La Kika.
All right, guys, we'll probably do another 3 or 4 episodes next week, and then one more, and we'll finish.